The fire was everywhere. It climbed the walls like a hungry beast, devouring memories, silence, and promises. And there, in the heart of chaos, she didn't scream. She thought. She thought of her grandmother. That woman with steady hands and a gentle soul, who taught her that love is not luxury, it's root. That family is not built on names, but on affection. That home is not a mansion, but a shelter where hearts truly listen. Now, surrounded by flames, she remembered. She remembered the empty stares, the cold smiles, the parties where no one truly loved. She grew up among the vain, the shallow, those who measured worth by cars and conquests. But deep down, she always dreamed of something greater. A love that was an encounter, not a transaction. A life with purpose, with truth, with tenderness. And there, about to die in fire, she understood. It wasn't fate that was destroying her. It was the elite around her. Those who once applauded her in public now left her to die in silence. And as the heat closed in, she knew, sometimes you must burn to be reborn. The sky was gray, but inside the mansion, everything burned red. Velvet curtains turned to ash. Persian rugs dissolved into smoke. And she, in the middle of it all, ran without knowing where, as if the world had decided to erase her story. Every step was a goodbye. Goodbye to a sheltered childhood. Goodbye to cold dinners with crystal glasses. Goodbye to the illusion that love could bloom between golden walls. The fire wasn't random. It came from familiar hands, from smiles she trusted, from hugs that hid knives. She stumbles, falls, and there, on the floor, among shards and smoke, she understands. Betrayal is not the end, it's the beginning. The beginning of a truth she tried to ignore. Of a life that must be rebuilt, not with luxury, but with soul. She smiled with her lips, but not with her eyes. At that dinner table, surrounded by silverware and crystal glasses, Emily was a rose among thorns. Richard spoke of business, achievements, and figures. But she thought of Margaret, who used to say, "What matters isn't what you have, it's what you feel." The guests laughed loudly, but no one truly listened. Emily watched the rehearsed gestures, the hollow compliments, the glances that never touched. And there, among the vain, she felt like a stranger. The locket around her neck pulsed like a reminder. She came from deep roots, not appearances. And even without knowing how, she knew, one day she would stop pretending. It was late afternoon in Whitbridge. The sky tinged with gold, the streets calm, and Emily walked alone, trying to escape her own thoughts. That's when it happened, fast, brutal, unexpected. A man approached violently, demanding her purse, her rings, her dignity. She froze. Fear paralyzed her like an invisible chain. But before the scream could escape, he appeared. A stranger, Daniel, sun-marked face, calloused hands, steady gaze. Without hesitation, he faced the attacker with courage and strength. He wasn't a movie hero. He was real, human, present. When it was over, she was still trembling. He looked at her with kindness, asking for nothing in return. And in that moment, something inside her ignited. It wasn't just gratitude. It was recognition, as if her soul had found a voice that spoke the same language. She tried to forget, tried to erase the gaze of the man who saved her, like someone trying to silence a verse that insists on returning. But it was too late. Daniel already lived in her thoughts, like a song you don't choose to love. Her mother, proud and relentless, wouldn't accept it. You're a Morera. You don't mix with ordinary people. But Emily no longer wanted to be a name. She wanted to be a story. The days that followed were made of furtive meetings, stolen glances, words spoken with the eyes. He didn't promise worlds. He promised presence, and that to her was everything. But the world around them didn't forgive. The elite whispered, mocked, judged, and she, caught between love and fear, remained silent. She guarded the feeling like someone protecting a precious secret, because sometimes love is born in silence and grows in the courage of those who choose to feel, even when the world tells them to forget. The rain tapped gently against the windows as she entered the quiet room. The scent of lavender lingered in the air, and there, sitting in a velvet armchair, was her grandmother, the only person who ever truly saw her. With trembling hands, the old woman reached into a wooden box carved with roses. Her eyes glistened as she pulled out a delicate gold necklace, its pendant shaped like a heart, worn but radiant. "This belonged to your grandfather," she whispered. "He gave it to me the night we ran away from everything. From lies, from power, from danger." The young woman's breath caught. She had never heard this story. Her grandmother's voice, though fragile, carried the weight of decades. "There are things you don't know, my dear. About our family. About the people who smile in public and plot in private." A flashback flickered in her mind. A couple dancing in the rain, laughter echoing through a dim-lit street. Her grandparents, young and fearless, defying the world. She clutched the necklace, feeling its warmth against her skin. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a warning, a legacy, a promise dot as she looked out the window. The storm outside seemed to mirror the one rising within her. The past had spoken, and now she had to listen. Her rise disturbed them, not because it was fast, but because it was authentic. Emily didn't play the elite's game, and that irritated them. She didn't sell herself for status, didn't bow for convenience. The subtle attacks began. Invitations that excluded, glances that wounded, false stories that stained her name. Daniel, by her side, faced it all with dignity, but she saw the weariness in his eyes. The pressure was cruel, and the world seemed to conspire against what was true. A refined businessman, a familiar face in high society, approached. He offered help, connections, protection. But there was something in his smile, something that didn't match kindness. Emily hesitated, and that's when she realized not all support is sincere. Not every smile is shelter. Sometimes the enemy wears the face of an ally, and the greatest battle is knowing whom to trust. over Whitbridge like a heavy veil. Emily walked through the narrow streets, guided by a restlessness she couldn't name. Something was wrong, something bigger than crooked glances or false smiles. Upon arriving home, she found a drawer slightly open. Inside, old documents, contracts, hidden records. Each page was a wound, each signature a betrayal. She discovered her inheritance was being manipulated, that people close to her, including Richard, were quietly plotting to take everything that was hers. And the fire wasn't an accident. The ground seemed to vanish beneath her feet, but she didn't cry. She took a deep breath, like someone diving into dark waters. Because now there was no room for naivety. The crossing had begun, and she knew, to find the light, one must walk through the darkness. The smell of smoke returned like a nightmare. She was there again, surrounded by fire, but this time she knew the truth. She knew who lit the first match. She knew the fire wasn't an accident, it was a warning. She faced the traitor, Richard, in a dark room where the past echoed on the walls. He tried to deny, tried to justify, but his eyes said everything. There were no more masks, only ashes. She didn't scream. She spoke with firmness, with pain, with dignity. Each word was an open wound, a burned memory, a choice made. The fire around her seemed smaller than the one burning inside. Because there, in that confrontation, she didn't lose. She was set free. Freed from naivety, from dependence, from illusion. And when she left that room, Emily was no longer the same. She was woman. She was strength. She was truth. After the storm came silence. But it wasn't the silence of pain. It was the silence of rebuilding. Emily looked at the wreckage of her own life and for the first time saw possibilities. With the help of Margaret, her mentor, and Daniel, the man who never left her side, she began to rebuild what others had tried to destroy. Not with luxury, but with truth. Not with appearance, but with essence. The company she inherited began to breathe again. The employees, once ignored by the elite, were now heard, respected, valued. She transformed what had been a symbol of oppression into a space of welcome. And in love, she found shelter. Daniel wasn't perfect, but he was real. And together, they built something that couldn't be bought: trust. The light didn't come from outside. It came from within her. From the courage to be who she had always been, even when the world tried to extinguish her. The day began with the scent of fresh bread and brewed coffee. The house was full, not of luxury, but of life. Friends, laughter, voices blended into a symphony of affection. Emily walked among the guests with lightness. A simple dress, Margaret's necklace around her neck, and in her eyes, peace. Peace of someone who faced the fire and chose not to burn inside. In the kitchen, Puerto Rican dishes filled the table. Daniel cooked with joy, surrounded by children and stories. It was there, in that everyday gesture, that she saw the love she had always dreamed of. Margaret, seated on the porch, smiled in silence. She knew the journey had been worth it. girl had become a woman. That pain had turned into root. And when night fell, she looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you." Because now at last she was home. Not a home of walls, but of belonging.